Time to get into our final segment. That's our top 5, baby. And this top 5, boy, this was a tough one for me. I mean it. This top 5 is cards that should have other cards' abilities.
2 of these have been on my list almost since the beginning of the game.
One of these I have on my list, or one that we actually talked about. So
yeah.
But I will tell you that this was a very, very tough list. We changed it last time, I think, right at the last second, because I personally was like, man, I am struggling. I don't know if I can come up with what I need to come up with here. It was tough.
I had 2 or 3 that were sure things, and then some others that I was like, well, how do I round this out? And then I have at least one runner-up. I may have had more, but I actually did this list way ahead of the last one just because it was rattling around in my head. So I'm not sure about some of my runners-up.
Okay.
And one of them you'll see was a very late addition.
Okay. Well, then let me start things out here. So, and like I said, again, I struggled with this because they do a great job with most cards to make them feel like, okay, this is what this person, this hero, this villain would do. So I'll start with my number 5. And now that I look at it, my number 3, I am kind of iffy on. I probably could have done something better. But number 5, the Juggernaut should have Vision's power set to where he can, once he's played, he can move anywhere. But I want him to be able to move anywhere. That's not how this works. I want him to be able to move anywhere he wants to. But we'll just say Juggernaut with the power of Vision, where he can move any turn. He can move once any turn. So
I was going to say, usually if we have a similar answer, we say hold it and save it. But since this one has 2 parts, I didn't do that. Juggernaut's on my list, but later.
Man, this was a tough list for me. What's your number 5? Because this might help me if I want to change something.
My number 5 is your good buddy, the Punisher.
Okay.
I mean, the Punisher's power is not bad. His power amps up when he's facing more opponents. I mean, Frank Castle fights harder the longer the odds are. But I think Punisher ought to have Spider-Man 2099's power.
Ooh.
Punisher arrives on the scene and just takes a card out.
I like that. I do. I think that's great.
I mean, I like that ability. I was a little surprised for Spider-Man 2099. But, of course, I've read Spider-Man 2099 stuff here and there, but I more know him as future Spider-Man with an awesome costume. So I think, Punisher's ability now makes sense, but Punisher just eliminating a card. I would have said he should take Gambit's power maybe, but Gambit's is too perfect because he's literally throwing the card you're playing with. But yeah, Punisher should have the ability of Spider-Man 2099.
I like that. I think
just switch him. I could see Spider-Man 2099, getting more powerful against the odds.
Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of like, I read some Spider-Man 2099 a little bit, but I don't remember him taking, destroying, killing people or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's kind of accurate. Okay. All right. My next one, number 4, I've got Professor X should have Daredevil's power.
Oh,
so
makes sense.
Yeah, he can see the play before it happens on turn 5. Don't get me wrong. I like it. Professor X, his ability to lock down a lane, just kind of exhibits how powerful Professor X can be. But I think that his ability to see what other players are doing makes a lot more sense to me. Like, he's able to reach out. He's able to see. He's able to get into other people's minds to be ready for whatever's about to happen.
And, I hadn't really thought about it before. That definitely works for Professor X or any telepath. I think his lockdown thing kind of reminds me of what he did in X-Men 2.
X-Men. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, when he kind of froze everybody in the museum or the White House.
Yes.
Maybe that's what that's a reference to, because it certainly fits, but it's not the first thing I think of with Professor X. Yours says telepathy to me more than his, but I think maybe that's what they were going for.
Okay, I like it. All right, what's your number 4?
My number 4, and it was funny because I don't know if you said this on a show or just when we were chatting back and forth, but you said how perfect this character's power is, and it definitely works in name, but in effect, I think she could do more. The Invisible Woman, I think, should have Luke Cage's power. You can't reduce their powers. Yes, she's the Invisible Woman, and making other cards invisible plays that out. But when I think of Sue Storm, or Susan Richards, sorry, even though she is the Invisible Woman, I think of force fields. And True. Luke Cage is tough and durable, and yeah, he protects people, but I mean, his power protects every card in play.
Right.
And I think, the Invisible Woman with those big force fields, she has done that in many a comic, protecting the Fantastic Four and bystanders and all kinds of stuff. So her power is good, but I think Luke Cage's ability really reflects the scope of her powers in the comics.
I can dig that. All right. My number 3, and again, I wrote this down, and the more that I think about it, the less I like it. But I have Juggernaut yet again, but this time with Colossus's powers. But the more that I think about it, can't be destroyed, moved, or power reduced. Well, nothing stops the Juggernaut. And really, honestly, if the Blob was somebody that was out there, I think Colossus's power would probably be a little bit more attuned to that. I didn't understand. I mean, I guess I do, but like Colossus not being able to be destroyed. Okay, I guess that's because he's got the metal body. Yeah. The whole not moved thing. All right, I know Colossus, pretty strong-willed guy. Power
and he was the Juggernaut for a minute.
Yes, he was. Or power reduced, which, okay, I'm sure. Okay, that's just another representation of how strong he is. But Juggernaut's a pretty strong dude as well. I mean, it took a punch from Onslaught to lay him out at one point, but it feels like the stuff that makes Juggernaut this imposing force that cannot be messed with is what fits his power set. Now, granted, what his ability is in the game is more along the lines like somebody gets in his way and he moves them out of the way, and that fits too. But I'm more along the line of like, okay, this guy is unstoppable. You cannot do anything to stop this force. That's kind of why I put, okay, well, he can't be destroyed. He can't be moved. You're not going to move the Juggernaut or have his power reduced, which, you could maybe tie that in with the Crimson, help me out,
Sidorak.
Crimson Gem of Sidorak, which that provides him with like the force field pretty much, right? Or so anyway, long story short, there you go. That's my number 3.
Okay. Still not the power I would suggest for the Juggernaut.
Okay, I can't wait to hear. Hear what it is.
But my number 3 was actually my number 1 for a long time. And I moved it down because I had to remember that maybe not everybody sees things the way that I do. And even in the comics, she has been reduced somewhat. But Squirrel Girl should have the power of Captain Marvel.
Wow.
Move her. Because, I mean, Captain Marvel, it reflects that she's powerful, but Captain Marvel, move her, if possible, move her to a location where she wins the game. What is Squirrel Girl's comic isn't called Squirrel Girl.
It's the unbeatable
Squirrel Girl.
That's right.
If there's a way to win, Doreen Green finds it. Give Captain Marvel, I mean, I thought about Captain Marvel could maybe have the Torch's power, or it's not a 1-to-1 switch. I mean, Captain Marvel should not generate squirrels. And yes, I know if Squirrel Girl doesn't generate squirrels, who will generate them? But we get frickin' Central Park enough.
That's true. My gosh.
And I mean, she doesn't have to be a 5-cost-6 power. I mean, I'm fine with her being a 5-cost-6 power because Squirrel Girl is my favorite character and she is awesome. But if you think that's a bridge too far, she should have M'Baku's ability.
Yes, there you go. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
At least. I am fine with her having Captain Marvel's ability, although, I mean, I think you could drop the cost if you wanted to, but at least give her M'Baku. I mean, I know she makes squirrels, but, I mean, I'm Central Park, if we redid the locations we hate to see, Central Park might have crawled into my top 5. And it wasn't even a hot location, but it's just like, come on, people, I have cards I need to put here.
Exactly.
And it's not Patriot. So Squirrel Girl should have the power of Captain Marvel, but I would accept M'Baku.
Okay. It's interesting because as I was going through my the cards today, and I was like looking them over and going, okay, that those abilities are perfect. This person's ability is perfect. Squirrel Girl. So when I saw that it was like a perfect ability, I'm like, I just immediately wrote it off. I'm like, there's nothing else here that could probably at least feel genuine to me that should be replacing this because it feels so right. And Squirrel Girl was one of them.
It's like, an accurate ability, but it doesn't encompass. It's like Juggernaut. Juggernaut's ability reflects something Juggernaut can do, but is it all the Juggernaut can do?
Not all that Juggernaut can do, right?
I would say it is not.
I hear you. Heading into my number 2. And this was one, I had to do a little bit of research on today, as in like I was looking things over, trying to find some stuff. And I was like, oh, this actually makes sense to me. If this was something in the game, you'd have to change the animation a little bit, but I think the result would be the same. And I'm going to go with Hazmat having Rhino's ability to ruin a location. So, I mean, clearly, what she does right now, she brings everybody's powers down by 1.
Mm-hmm.
But
I can see that.
Yeah, I was sitting there thinking, like, you know what? If she could, to me, radioactivity ruins land, ruins a spot. So
yeah, that makes sense.
I'm going with Hazmat with Rhino's ability to ruin a location as my number 2. What do you got?
Well, now we're going to get my opinion on Juggernaut.
Okay, I can't wait. I want to hear what this is.
I think Juggernaut should be more than a 3-cost 3 power. And that's the thing that's most jarring to me, is that he's the Juggernaut.
He is the Juggernaut.
But if he's going to be a 3-cost 3 power card, there's another 3-cost 3 power card's abilities he should have.
Okay.
Juggernaut is not nearly powerful enough for a 3-cost 3 power, and there's a 3-cost 3 power card who is way too powerful. Juggernaut should have the ability of the Vulture.
The Vulture.
Because the Vulture's way too good.
Yeah, and his ability, the Vulture's ability, is to move.
And every time he moves, he can't move on his own, but every time he moves, he gets +5.
He is
gaining.
gaining
Move a bunch. Vulture can outscore Infonaut if you. Well, okay, maybe that's a bit much, but he can outscore. You move him twice, and he does more damage than the Hulk.
Right.
And so he doesn't move on his own, but, a lot of times Juggernaut's not the guy planning the heist or the caper. So he needs somebody else to point him in the right direction. So I think that makes Juggernaut more powerful. Vulture, I mean, heck, he could fly in and knock somebody out of a location. Just switch their powers if you want. Vulture's too powerful and Juggernaut's not powerful enough, and it just so happens that Vulture's ability would fit Juggernaut just fine in my eyes.
Yeah, I would have to agree, because that is the common theme of what I was looking for. Juggernaut moving and being a formidable force. I agree. That would put him right up there with what I would want. So
he's more dangerous when he gets moving.
Exactly. Good number 2. All right, number 1.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say we've got the same number 1.
First off, you mentioned it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I know the combo that you originally had mentioned. At least I think we could see the first part, the one that should be modified. I have listed as Captain America. Is that who you have? Okay. All right. Now, when I was looking this over, I was thinking, okay, his original ability is everybody at that location is +1, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I took it a step further and I said, give him the ability of Blue Marvel.
Oh, that is not what I have, but that is an improvement.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement. You're talking about all of your other cards have +1.
Right.
So it's taking that idea of, the Captain America is clearly inspiring everybody here at this location. And instead of just at that location, Captain America is part of your team, the whole deck. And he should be able to inspire everybody that's on that team, no matter where they're at. And everybody should get +1. So the thing is, I don't know much about Blue Marvel anyway, so I have no idea if what he has, his ability.
Blue Marvel's pretty powerful.
Okay.
I mean, he's up there. He's almost another Marvel Superman analog.
All right. So
his powers are more energy based, but yeah.
Is it with the whole of all of the cards +1? Do you think that fits that character?
I don't know how well it reflects his power, but it reflects his power level, I think.
Okay. All right.
But I agree with you. Captain America should be able to affect more than just one location. And I would say I couldn't agree with you more, but I could agree with you more. If
Okay.
you said that Captain America should have it, because Captain America's power reflects his ability to inspire and lead and really works with him as a patriotic symbol, but he's not even the most powerful patriotic symbol in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Captain America, I think, although it's hard to argue with yours, I think Captain America should have the power of Patriot.
Patriot, right.
Because we both agree Captain America should affect more than just one location.
Right.
And Patriot powers up non-power cards by +2. I mean, Patriot can be a huge game changer, and Patriot is, I mean, he's his own character, but he's not a knockoff, but he's Captain America light.
Right.
But he's got a better power than Captain America.
Yeah, he's
I put Captain America in decks, and if I'm looking to add a 3-cost card, he's the first one I'm going to take off.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's useful, but there's so many more useful 3-cost cards, Patriot chief among them. So, I mean, Blue Marvel's power might be a better fit because it affects everybody regardless. But, I mean, Captain America, you know, even before he had powers, he wouldn't back down from a fight. So I could see him, you know, inspiring and lifting up those without powers.
I agree.
Even though the Hulk doesn't fall into that category. But, hey, sometimes when Captain America says jump, you know, when Captain America says smash, the Hulk smashes.
That's right, buddy. That's right.
So I just think, you know, yours works too. I just think that having Patriot's power corrects the fact that, you know, Captain America Jr. is more powerful than Captain America.
Right. Captain America is really underpowered for this game. I mean, he carries a lot of clout with him now. Yeah. When you look at the cinematic universe and everything else, I mean, he's definitely
the Avengers, even the X-Men.
Right.
I mean, you know, people respect Captain America.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think you're absolutely right. He should be able to affect more than just one location. And I give the edge to Patriot over Blue Marvel because Blue Marvel is that powerful. Patriot's not.
Right. I'll agree.
He's a good kid. You know, got hooked on the mutant growth hormone at one point, but you know, he got better. He righted the ship, but he shouldn't be more useful and more powerful than Captain America and at his own game.
100%.
I mean, he's inspiring and boosting up people better than the best inspirational leader in the Marvel Universe.
Right. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is our top 5 Marvel Snap cards that should have other Snap card abilities. That was a fun top 5. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings our discussion series of Snap Material episodes to a close. I want to thank Evan Bevins for bringing his best, and we got to talk about last season and this upcoming season. It's going to be a lot of fun. Got to do a little bit of a battle. Got to talk a top 5. So, Evan, let's get into plugs, man. What do you got? What do you got going on?
Well, you can find my writing over at asterisk51.blogspot.com. Actually, haven't written about Snap because we started doing all the lists over here. So, but if you want to read more about the comics where these characters and a whole bunch of others came from, as well as just what kind of movies you can find at Dollar Tree, they're better than you think, and some of them are just as weird as you might expect. Case in point, Chinese-speaking vampires. By the time this comes out, you should also have my review of Independence Day Dark Fathom from Titan Comics, some of my musings on the Independence Day franchise, and Mark Radulich and I will have done a comic strip on The Losers, yet another comic book movie starring Chris Evans.
Oh, wow. All right, then. You're listening to the Source Material Comics feed right now. We have all sorts of great podcasts on here, starting with the Source Material Comics podcast, where it's pretty much a book club for comics. Got all sorts of great comic book related shows on there recently. Well, actually, no, recently was my solo shot of What If Volume 2, Number 1. I talk about what if the Avengers lost the Evolutionary War. So
the Evolutionary was just living rent-free in your head, wasn't he?
He was, too. And that's why I did that. I was like, I've got to get this out. So, yeah, you can go check that out. It was a lot of fun. I ran down what happened in every single one of the Evolutionary War annuals in there. And then I talked about what happened in the What If issue, which was pretty crazy stuff. And then also the Unspoken Issues podcast just recently, today, as a matter of fact, we released our latest episode, Conan versus Rune Saga, 3 issues. Actually, it's like 2 1/4. But you can check out me, Dean, and Derry talking about Rune, the evil eldritch god from the Ultraverse, versus Conan, the barbarian, shortly after Marvel.
Well, that's not the late night talk show host?
No, it is not.
That's
Anyway, check those things out there. You can listen also. Check out, I'm going to throw out a plug for Kapow, the Pop Culture Podcast. I participated in an upcoming episode where they are in the process of ranking all 32 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. And I took part in the middle 10 movies. And it was a game. It's not like we sat there and all agreed. I can tell you that much. When somebody and trust me, the movie that got thrown in at the very top of the show was ridiculous. And I couldn't veto it because he had the very next pick and he would have just thrown it in there. So if you want to hear some absurdity that happens, one movie makes it in at very low on this list that I completely disagreed with, and I guarantee everybody else will. But because I'm a game player, because I'm a man who needs to make sure that his picks get where they need to be, I had to hold on to a veto. And I'm sorry, folks, but it was rough. That is going to be the end of the show. That is Evan Bevins over there. I'm Jesse Starcher. We thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.